Hi, Marco from Inspector Detector. We're now going to look at opening an electrical panel. Please beware, especially with older panels, go study electrical. It's not something to play with. If you're not sure what you're doing, go take a course with a home inspection association. Online isn't normally enough to learn everything about electrical, because you make a mistake here, it can be a shocking experience. You normally have a home energy efficient certificate on new homes stuck on here. It's basically just what they test, that all the insulation is done. When you start with a electrical panel, always tap it first to feel that it's not live. Open, have a look on the interior, make sure that the labels are listed, look at all the breakers that are there. I usually take a picture of the panel before I start opening it, mainly also to make sure that the breakers are on and off in the correct, because sometimes you bump them that you have to reset them. If a breaker is off, do not turn it on. If the client, if the agent, if anyone gives you a hard time and says turn it on, the answer simply is no. You do not know why it's turned off. Maybe it was electrical short, maybe the seller turned it off. The reason being, you go, oh, it's off. You turn it on, it could be a loose wire lying somewhere, someone could get killed, the house can go on fire. Guess what? You've just bought yourself a burnt home. So do not turn, just write in your report, breaker turned off, breaker 15, kitchen hood was off at the time of the inspection. Please ask seller for further disclosure. Test before closing. Put all that information in there. I do see they got a surge protector in here. We don't test them or see how they're installed. I just normally mention that it's in there. When I take off the panel, I always start on the screws on the other side of the flap, because it's harder to get to. So I start at the bottom. Do yourself a favor, buy a couple of these screws, have them in your little toolkit. Reason being, you often don't have, like if there's a screw missing, do not screw and replace a screw. Put in the information, screw missing on electrical panel. This is mainly for when you got a whole lot of items here, the thing slips out of your hand, rolls underneath here, and now you're missing a screw. So it is worth buying a couple of these screws. You can buy them in packs of 6. Just go to Lowe's or one of your building supply centers. Now, I can put the screws down. Some people get a magnetic belt and put it on. I used to have one, but you end up bumping it and it falls everywhere. So I'm old school. I normally just stick them in like this while I'm working, take the panel off, put it back, use it. Yes, you get germs. Germs are good. They keep you healthy. That's my opinion, although some people probably think it's crazy, but that you can determine or find what's the easiest way for you to do. When you come to your second last screw to take out of the panel, please make sure you put a lot of force on it. Another thing that you need to be aware of is if the home has just been repainted, especially on the interior, if your panel's on the interior, make sure that the paint is loose around it. I always carry a pocket knife on me so that you can cut around the paint to make sure it's loose. If you don't cut it, what's going to happen when you take the cover off, you're going to peel the paint away, and then you're going to have an unhappy seller. So make sure you keep the panel nicely. Hold the door, which helps you to assist it. Pick it up and then just gently take it off. Now, when you look at the wiring, have a look at it. From the side, it all comes down. You can notice, look for aluminum wiring. Mainly the houses, I think it was in the 70s, just have a look. You will see no copper wiring. Then they did aluminum wiring. You must write that up aggressively. There usually is a statement in your software to write that up. The problem with aluminum wiring is not so much that there was something wrong with the wiring, it was the connection from the wiring to the outlet where the screw was attached that would overheat and create fires. They can be converted where they cut a piece off the wiring, converted with a special clamp to copper. However, that is an expensive thing to do on a home that's got aluminum wiring. So please look, first thing you look for is aluminum wiring, and don't always look at the year it was built. Some electricians had a whole pile of wiring lying in their backyard and have used it on certain little add-ons, especially on a home, just to get rid of the wiring. So always look that you can see copper. You also today, I have noted, especially with new build, when you get the the wiring, look at it from the side. They are now starting to use copper-coated aluminum wiring, which has been accepted and is being used. It's cheaper than straight copper, so just beware, but you are not here. It's very difficult to notice that unless you unscrew everything. Have a look always from all sides. Make sure all the wiring is nicely tucked in and the screws are tight. You'll have aluminum wiring on your bigger power things, like usually it'll be your hot water heater, your electrical oven, the HVAC unit. You have a look on this side that there's no rust on the units. These were the little white buttons on them. These are called AFCIs. Sometimes you have GFCIs. Just write them up if you have, especially with older homes. Sometimes you won't find a GFCI in the kitchen, and instead of putting a GFCI there, they've just taken the power to the kitchen and turned the breaker into a GFCI. So please have a look. A lot of people test these AFCIs. I do not test them. If it's a brand new house and the house is empty, I will test the AFCIs. You just press it. You must push the breaker back and forward again to engage. With a furnished house, I don't do it. You can turn off alarm systems, you can reset people's computers, and people get upset. So just write up, if it's a furnished home, that the AFCIs were not tested. Some people do recommend people test them on a regular basis. I have my own opinion. Do more research and then decide what you want to do. I always take a picture of the panel open and I put it in my overview section of my electrical inspection section. Thereby the client can see you have opened and had a look. It looks very impressive, and it shows that you did take the time to inspect the electrical panel. And I try and take pictures from all sides. So bottom, top, but the main picture from the front. When you install the panel cover back on, just put it in place, just by hand, slightly tighten them. Do not tighten it till you got all the screws in, because sometimes you can tighten it and the whole plate is skewed. So you want to hold it one by one, because now, like here, you want to move it to the hole. That's easy to do, and you just slightly screw them in. Once you have all 6 screws in place, then you can, like here, I got to move again. Once you have them in place, then it's easier to do it. Another thing, when you have items in the way of the panel and you cannot access the panel, write it up as a limitation. If you cannot open the unit, please, limitation. If you can't do anything, limitation. Write it up in the report, because you don't want the client phoning you and saying, oh, they found this wrong, and you go, well, I didn't open the panel. And if it's not written in the report, then sorry for you, you will take responsibility of that particular item. So if you can't get into the attic, limitation. If you can't see something in a wall, limitation. Write it up. There's the one thing that will protect you more than your agreement is limitations. Now, don't put a limitation for every single thing, but if you can't open an electrical panel, if you can't get to your hot water heater, write that you couldn't get access, and then I always put a statement, unable to open the electrical panel due to storage items. Please have all the storage items removed and the panel investigated and inspected before closing. Thereby you're saying to them, I couldn't get to it. Please, when you can call me back for a re-inspection and I can inspect the panel.